Hello.
Hi.
Hi. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Can you guys hear and see
Yes.
me okay? Okay, great. Oh, look at my book in the background. Cute. It never gets old. I'm still like, oh my God, shocked every time I see it.
I would
Oh,
be
that's
too.
so cool. Have you like snuck into bookstores and signed copies at all?
Yeah, I've done that here and there, but I'm also like, just I still get nervous. I'm like, if I don't see it, I'm gonna be sad, but if I see it,
Oh,
I'm gonna be like nerding out too much. So I have no chill. I'm still trying to like find my chill in the process, but I have yet to do it. So, but yeah, I've signed it a couple places. Whenever I like go into a bookstore, if I see it, I'll ask them to sign it. Though I always feel like weird just bringing a stack of my books and being like, do you want me to sign this? No, like I don't know.
Who would ever
that's so
say no
cool.
to that? What a
I
cool
Yeah.
opportunity. Yeah.
It's
Well,
so nice to meet you both.
It's so nice to meet you too.
yeah, thank you so much for coming on. This is the 24th episode.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and this is on the serendipitous side. We are just trying to connect the all of us readers to the authors that we absolutely adore, and we are so excited to have you on.
Thank you.
Your novel took over Sorry, my cat also
No,
wants
I
to be
was
with us.
just gonna say I have to meet this cat too,
I know.
obviously.
Yeah, this is Charlie, but yeah, then that's her butt, of course.
They always have to put their butt in the camera. I kicked my cats out because like they would put their butthole right here and I
Yeah.
would have to be like, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Well, if you want to give us like a little intro on you and then maybe a reading.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so my name's Kirsten King. I'm an author and screenwriter. I live in Los Angeles, California. I lived in Boston before that, which you can probably, if you've read the book, can tell from the setting of the novel, hopefully that I've lived there. Um, and yeah, I wrote this book during the 2023 writer's strike when my kind of main career, hit pause and yeah, I had such a great time writing Lillian, even though I feel like that's a red flag to say like I had fun writing her because she's a little crazy. But yeah, I'm happy to read a little sample. And this part of the book is when Henry and Lillian are first meeting, which feels appropriate to kind of launch us into the situationship of it all. Henry and I first met while I was out for drinks with my colleagues at a pub near Fenway Park. At work functions, you were supposed to drink a maximum of 2 drinks and be the most normal version of yourself possible. However, my coworkers were insufferable, so I was 3 drinks deep when I spotted him. He was at a bar sipping a whiskey soda and working on his laptop. He was handsome, but not so attractive that he felt out of my league. He looked a little bit like Bill Hader, who I'd always wanted to fuck. I approached him as I ordered my fourth glass of wine. Who brings a laptop to a bar? I teased, resting my elbow on the counter and quickly recovering when it slid off the bar. Henry seemed taken aback but smiled when he registered that I was joking. I'm just finishing some work, he explained. The bartender placed my glass of wine in front of me. Do you want to buy this for me? I nodded to the glass. Henry looked surprised but recovered. Yeah, sure. I scooped up my wine and clinked my glass against his, nearly knocking it over. Henry grabbed his own cup, steadying it before it could spill onto his electronics. Cheers, I said. I returned to my colleagues who were all talking about the latest prestigious television show that everyone had decided was really saying something. I glanced over at Henry, who was still hunched over his MacBook Pro. As the night progressed, my coworkers trickled out of the bar one by one while Henry remained. When they were all gone, I tipsily strutted back to where he sat, plopping down next to him. His cell phone was resting on the counter. I grabbed it and his arm shot up to block me like a strictly programmed robot. Relax, I smirked. I'm just putting my number in. Henry's mouth fell open, but he didn't protest. Unless you don't want me to, I said, raising an eyebrow to challenge him. He didn't answer, so I entered my number. Are you usually this forward? Henry asked. No, I lied. Men like to think that you were breaking your normally chaste rules to pursue them. They wanted to feel like you were virginal to the rest of the world and a whore with them. It was why I always made sure to say I never do this on a first date whenever I slept with someone on a first date. Men wanted to feel like you were a new car that only had a few miles on it. I understood all the ways in which this was a retrograde way of thinking, but it was a reality, so I embraced it. There, you're welcome, I smiled, handing him his phone. Oh, okay, thanks, Henry replied. I walked out of the bar in the straightest line I could manage, imagining myself as a Julia Roberts character in a 90s movie, hot, spontaneous, with great undamaged hair that swayed in the wind behind me. I pictured Henry watching me walk away, shaking his head in disbelief at his luck. The next day, I realized I'd forgotten to close my tab and canceled my credit card out of laziness. A few days later, Henry texted.
Awesome. That was the perfect excerpt, especially for
Thank
people who
you.
haven't read it. Thank you so much for reading.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I'm like at this point I feel like I could maybe memorize that part and read it without without the book,
It
but
was very fluid. It seems like you knew it well.
thank you.
So you mentioned when you started writing the book, had the story lived long in your mind before that time period?
Um, so I was honestly I was in this place with screenwriting where I think I was like writing for the wrong reasons, if I'm being totally honest. Um I I grew up kind of like Lillian, pretty broke, and I have this sort of scarcity mindset when it comes to writing and working. And I was screenwriting, but I was just trying to write what might sell and like what might be my next salary and income. And so when the writer's strike hit and I couldn't do that and I wasn't able to do that, I had to sort of reevaluate like, okay, well, I still want to write for fun, but what story do I genuinely want to tell that I'm not thinking about, will this sell? Will this get made? And I just started writing this character just as sort of a exercise for fun. I was like, I work in Hollywood. I'm surrounded by some narcissistic people. I've had some narcissistic people in my life before, and uh, I was just like, what about this woman? There's this character in my brain and this woman that just doesn't want to change. Like, what if I never went to therapy? What if I followed all my worst intrusive thoughts? What if I was like the worst version of myself in my 20s? Like, what would that person be like? And so I just started writing for fun, like imagining Lillian at a party, imagining Lillian volunteering at a cat shelter. Like I was writing these sort of scenes just for fun. And then I became kind of addicted to this character, and I was like, I think I should go back and add some framework and like story around this person and see if I have anything here. I didn't tell anyone in my life that I was writing a book because I didn't know what I was doing or how to write a book. But I like kind of went back and structured it the same way I would structure a screenplay, at least story wise. And then I really just became so obsessed with this character and I was having so much fun writing her. I think I wrote the first draft in about 6 to 8 months or something like that, pretty much during the strike. And it was very almost like manic how I wrote it. I was writing it at night. I was writing it like in every spare moment. I didn't even tell my husband I was writing a book. I think he thought I was like doing some weird like diary entry. And then finally I was like, okay, I might have just written a book, but I don't think I can show it to anyone. I think it's really weird. And I think people are going to think I'm a crazy person if I show it to anyone. But I sent it to a few trusted friends that are also writers. And I was kind of like, okay, is this just the ramblings of a crazy woman, or do you think it's a book? And they were like, I think it's both the ramblings of a crazy woman and a book.
That's so
You-
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think that writing screenplays kind of primed you for writing a novel, or is it pretty different?
I think the story structure, like I actually use the same outline for both. I use this outline called, it's just the Save the Cat beat sheet, and I use that to break both screenplays and this book, and I'm working on I use the same outline for my next book. And so that kind of like helps me get the framework in. The thing I love about novels is you get to be so internal with the character and you can kind of meander in a way that you can't in screenplays. So I'm also working on the adaptation for this book as a screenplay. And I'm like, oh my gosh, so much of this book is just Lillian crashing out in her head. Like, how do I communicate that in a cinematic way that feels really interesting to watch? So, um, it's definitely a different like mindset and skill set, just writing prose versus writing, something that's very dialogue and action heavy. But I think it definitely helped that I was used to like plotting story in a certain way.
Does it feel different having a book out versus having a show out?
Yeah, it totally does. And I think the nature of a novel versus like having something, because specifically I've only had a feature in a show that came out on streaming services. And I think because of that, like streaming services, like something kind of bubbles to the surface for a week and then it gets buried the next week by something else. And I feel like with books, the word of mouth and like the sharing a novel that you like with a friend or going or having a book club is so it just feels like the lifespan. And again, I'm only 2 months in, so I could be wrong. In a month, I could be like, everybody forgot about it. But at least like right now, it feels like, okay, the lifespan of this book feels a little bit different where people can discover in a library in 5 years or whatever. Like there's just a physical form that people can hold on to and pass to their friends and like tell other people about in a way that feels different when you're writing something that ends up on a streamer and just is like so quickly buried by the influx of other things coming out every other week. So it definitely feels different just in the way like the audience is engaging with it. And yeah, a lot of just like really lovely messages from people that loved the book, or some people are like, I'm like Lillian, and I'm like, oh no. Like,
Seek
I'm
help
like,
immediately.
yeah, I'm like, well, okay, therapy is an amazing tool for people, and I hope you're not too much like her, but
So you mentioned when you were writing the book, it happened pretty fast with the first draft and that it
yeah.
was almost like a manic state. So did you ever have to do like anything specific to shake off her personality? You know,
Oh gosh, no, I mean, luckily
you
I
let her live within until you
yeah.
finish.
I mean, not to like get into astrology, but I'm an Aries sun, a Scorpio moon, and a Cancer rising, and I feel like there's like elements of all those signs in Lillian in some way, and she is not someone I luckily feel like I have to shake off because I've been in therapy for 10 years. So I feel like if any of like those bad intrusive thoughts enter my brain, I would never act on them like Lillian. I also think I'm hopefully far less judgmental and performative than Lillian is, but um, I did not here's a time to out myself as a BuzzFeed millennial, but I worked at BuzzFeed from 2014 to 2018, and I think we all were like very much performing a version of ourselves online and to other people. And Lillian is like the worst version of that to me. And she's also really failing at performing a version of herself, but like that need to want to post the right things and say the right things. And she's even like more politically conscious than maybe some other people, but she's so like politically conscious without any sort of like action to back it, which I think is like exactly what BuzzFeed millennials were at that time.
The sense of humor in it is like top notch and
Oh,
unlike
thank
the
you.
majority of novels. I mean, the bathroom scene specifically, I laughed out loud. Like I just about had tears. I had to
Oh
take a
my
break from
God.
reading it and
Oh.
I pulled my husband aside and was like, "You have to listen to this because this is like phenomenal." Did that come naturally or did you have to like work at that?
I mean, thank you so much for saying it's funny because that's like one of the highest compliments that
It is
I can.
hilarious.
Oh, thank you so
Yeah,
much.
truly.
That means a lot to me. I come from like kind of a comedy background for screenwriting. I've been in a comedy room before. My rom-com has a lot of comedy in it that I wrote with my friend Casey Rackham. But so I think the comedy comes somewhat naturally to me, especially when I was like in Lillian's brain. I was just like, this is what this person would say or think, or this is what might happen to her. I also think I wanted to write about difficult and dark things, but I didn't want to do it in a way that like people would have to I wanted people to put the book down because they were laughing, not put the book down because they were like, this is
Right. Yeah.
really difficult and traumatic to read. Like, even though some traumatic things do happen in this book for sure, I feel like I don't know. want to like punch you in the gut and then like make you laugh the next sentence and be like, whoa, that was kind of whiplash. What just happened there? So I think it came pretty naturally. And it's just I've tried to write like very dark things before, and I still find myself like putting jokes on the page. So I think it's just sort of my impulse when a situation is uncomfortable to make a joke. Like I am the person that's like, if I'm at a funeral, I'm like, oh my God, Kirsten, don't laugh. Like what? Like you're like, there's just something in me that like I need the comedy to break through the tension. So that's kind of how I exist in my real life and how I deal with my real life trauma. So I think I definitely wanted to apply that to Lillian too.
It came through beautifully.
Thank you. Thank you.
Same. I like a little bit of dark humor to balance out tragedy. It really does
Yeah.
that. And most of the books, like when Ash and I are talking about books that we really enjoy, like whether it's like Emily Austen, these
Hmm.
balances of like happy, sad books, or
Yeah,
dark and funny, or whatever they are, there's always that nice little yin yang going on that keeps things
totally.
balanced. And you did that so well in A Good Person.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that means a lot to me. I really tried to have that to strike that balance correctly while also not like negating any of the heavy stuff that I was, talking about in it.
It was great.
Thank you.
So same kind of question regarding like atmosphere and detail, which was like one of my favorite parts of the book. Your attention to detail, like I feel like you were just dropped into every scene of the book. It was very
Yeah.
atmospheric. Did you intentionally create those scenes that way, or when you write, is that just the way you write?
Yeah, I mean, I try not to do a ton of exposition. I like want to give people the benefit of the doubt that like they can just go on the ride with me. You get like a little bit of exposition about Lillian's childhood and all that, but yeah, I like dropping someone into the middle of a scene and just like letting people get their bearings and enjoy the moment that they're in. I love authors that can like take you through like a big sweeping like exposition backstory. I don't feel like that's my strength. I feel like my strength is like dialogue, jokes, and setting and really dropping people into a specific scenario. So it was definitely intentional, but it's also like for me, I had to reread this book so many times. So I also was constantly like, if something wasn't keeping my attention span as I was rereading it, I kind of would edit it or change it. And which is, sometimes I'd have to go back with my editor and she'd be like, well, you cut all that exposition out and now we know nothing about this person, so we need a little bit more. But, I don't want to be bored by my own work. So I constantly am just trying to keep people entertained. And, after you read a book so many times, you do naturally get a little bit bored by it. So, but I'm constantly trying to just give people the benefit of the doubt that they'll jump into the moment with me and kind of catch up from there.
Awesome.
And I loved Lillian so much. How did that relationship and that dynamic come to be?
Yeah, I mean, Lillian is sort of like I've had people on book tour were like, is Lillian based on anyone? Is she? And I was like, well, one, I would never tell anyone if she was, because if I had a Lillian in my life and I wrote this book about her, like I'd be in trouble. But no, she's not really like based on any one person or one experience. Like I think she is uh, and I think what's hopefully effective for readers is you can kind of see bits and pieces of yourself in certain things she thinks and does. Obviously, she takes it to an extreme level and she is not well adjusted enough to like learn or grow. Another thing I really wanted to do with her is, in so many books, it's like you have this desire from readers and people for your character to learn and grow and change by the end of the novel. And like that's actually not what I was trying to do here. I think a lot of people don't learn and grow and change, and some people just double down in their ways. Like some people even go to therapy and lie to their therapist and don't change. So I was really interested with that person who just would prefer to live in their own delusions rather than see the reality around them and have to be uncomfortable and change. And that's like a core part of the book that I feel like people either really, really like or they absolutely detest. And they're like, she did not learn and grow. She was too making the same mistakes over and over. And it is supposed to be a frustrating experience to read it. And you are supposed to like want to shake her and be like, what are you doing, girl? Um, But I think always with like a character like that, you'll have people that are like, okay, 1 star, I hated it, or 5 stars, I loved it. And for me, I actually don't mind either of those reactions because I feel like I kind of did what I set out to do.
Really? Yeah. You evoked some very strong emotion, whichever way
Exactly.
it went. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Uh,
And Jamie,
yeah.
oh, sorry.
No, 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 sorry.
Jamie was so precious. How did she come to be?
Oh man, I feel like, well, I'm a queer woman and I'm like, at some point in my life, I've been a Jamie to someone totally manipulative. Like, I've been like someone that's like, I kind of think this person's a narcissist. I also feel like drawn to them in a specific way. I feel, bonded to them in a specific way. So Jamie came from this place of, some queer dynamics that I've had, and also just like, I think even if you're not a queer person, if you're a woman that's had a female friendship, like you can potentially understand like a really toxic dynamic and getting into it and kind of being like, why the fuck am I letting this person walk all over me? Why am I putting up with the same thing? Having like, I think that that very complicated dynamic is something that really exists in just friendships between women in general. Like, I don't know what guys do when they talk about when they hang out with each other. I think they like talk about the weather and like I don't know, but I'm like when you get into a very intimate friendship, it can feel really complicated like that. So with Jamie, I wanted to kind of talk about the toxic dynamic that can exist between people, especially when someone is a bit of a pushover and doesn't know how to stand up for themselves, because I certainly feel like I've been Jamie before where I've been a bit of a pushover and then kind of zoom out and I'm like, oh, that friendship in my 20s was absolutely insane. Like that was crazy. Why was I friends with that person who totally walked all over me?
Yeah, totally. Very relatable, I would say, for most people to have some type of toxic or friendship like that. I thought it was so interesting in the book club that you dropped into when we were
Yeah.
all discussing Jamie, and just
Yeah.
everyone's reaction was just so different to Jamie. I really liked,
Totally.
yeah.
Me
Yeah.
too.
I thought she served a really good purpose in this story, and I thought it was she actually ended up being like a really important character in this story.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I was curious, like, did you always kind of know what her arc would be when you brought her in? Did you know that purpose would what it would be from the get-go?
Yeah, she became a bigger character as I was writing the book. Like she became more central to Lillian's story. And I think for Lillian, like her whole thing is wanting to control people's perception of her. And you have this person like Jamie who she thinks kind of loves her unconditionally. And throughout the book, you learn like there are conditions to that. Like Jamie, she doesn't totally like I wish and I think I said this in the book club that I dropped into. I'm like I love Jamie and Jamie has her own book
Oh
probably
yeah,
perspective of this
yeah,
of Lillian, because it's like being best friends with a scary narcissist. I'm sure she has her own inner world and thoughts, and you're getting her through Lillian's perspective. So I get why people are like, she was so pathetic, she was so passive, but like that's her through Lillian's perspective. That's like what we're getting via Lillian. That's not like we don't know if Jamie has other friends because Lillian assumes she doesn't. We don't know if like Jamie goes home and talks to her mom and is like, this crazy person is absolutely ruining my life. Like we just get the pathetic version of Jamie that is Lillian's perspective on this friend who she thinks she can walk all over. But in my mind, I'm like, Jamie has her own like narrative about this crazy person and also is kind of like addicted to her crazy and wants to see what happens next. Because I also think, unfortunately, that's a friend when you have the thing when you have like a very chaotic friend, you're like, well, fuck, I know they're very chaotic, but I also really do want to know what happened in that story or like that breakup. Like I am curious to find out the ending. And I don't know if that's just because I'm a writer, but constantly, even with my most chaotic friends, I'm like, okay, well, I'm just gonna check in and see what's up and what happened with that.
oh, we all have that one friend. That one
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
keeps it entertaining for sure.
yeah.
So for the ending, did you always know how it would end?
The ending, I like try to remember exactly. I think I outlined it to be a little bit different than it ended, and I the ending I feel like I wrote over the course, like I feel like I wrote 3 chapters over the course of 2 days or something because it was just like snowballing in a way that I was like, I'm gonna follow this and see if this works. But so I kind of had it mapped out without like giving any spoilers away. I don't know if like spoiler-free podcast or whatever, but I had it mapped out, but I also really felt like when I was writing the ending, it was like chasing after a ball rolling down the hill and being like, okay, I think this is working, but also let's see what happens. And I'm just gonna follow this feeling because it felt right. And my editor and I certainly worked on like the beginning and the ending a little bit, but I would say mostly it stayed in place from what I had first drafted, which yeah, was I feel like it lands in the right place. Obviously, like I'm doing the screenplay now and I'm like kind of ends on sort of a cliffhanger. And for the screenplay, I'm like, okay, maybe I need to give people more. Maybe it needs to be less of a cliffhanger. I think there's some questions around what happened to certain people at the end. And I'm like, maybe I need to answer those questions. So it's really a debate of like how ambiguous I want to keep that ending.
I texted one of my friends that I knew before Emily had gotten the chance to read it.
Yeah.
I texted my friend Casey and in all caps said, "Did XYZ
Yeah.
actually happen?" And we're
Yeah.
both like, "I think so." Like all caps, just
Yeah.
freaking out.
Yeah. It's so funny because I have my obviously perspective on what happens in the ending. And again, I don't know if this is spoiler free podcast I can talk about it or not, but my sister texted me and was like, "You're wrong. That doesn't happen at the ending." And I was like, "I wrote the book. Like I wrote the book. Don't I get to decide the ending?" She was like,
Like
"I don't
I'm
think."
the end all on what happened.
Yeah. She was like, I don't agree with that. I don't think that's what happened." And I'm like, okay, well, I guess you have a different version of it, but yeah, very funny. And she still disagrees with me about it to this day. And I'm like, all
Oh my
right.
God.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was quite the chef's kiss there at the end. I loved
Oh, thank
it.
you. Thank you.
The land. It was just so good. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
So, research wise, did you do much research, especially like Wellness Witch and stuff like that?
Yeah. I mean, I live in LA again, so I'm
Oh yeah,
like the
true.
wellness
Everywhere.
the wellness switches are all around me. Like I can go into, candle shops and get my like horoscope read. I've had an exorcism before in LA. Like I've seen it all. So I feel like it was a lot of life experience being pulled into just like those side characters. In terms of larger research for the book, like I haven't lived in Boston for the 12 years now, so I know my version of Boston when I lived there, but I definitely had to, and my family's still there, so I was half the time just fact checking with them, but a lot of it was like writing a bar and then being like that bar closed 10 years ago, or I had to kind of do some research, just refreshing myself with Boston. And there were like things going back and forth with my copy editor where I'd like write the train route that I used to take. And she'd be like, well, actually, it's quicker to go this way on the bus. And I was like, yeah, but who takes the bus when you can take the train? Like, come on. Like, I don't know. There's just little things like that that we kind of went back and forth about to make Boston feel more authentic, just because, again, it's been a while since I've lived there. But yeah, in terms of research, it was mostly in me, as terrifying as that is. And I'm definitely doing more research for my second book that I'm working on, though.
Cool. So, literary inspirations, like maybe it doesn't have to be like specifically that you had for your book, but that you
Yeah.
read during it. Do you know what I mean? During that span of your life, were there any?
Yeah, oh, man, I love like what is defined as weird woman fiction. Like I think you guys honestly interview a lot of authors in that genre for this podcast.
Yes.
So I think there's a lot of really exciting work that's, coming out now, like 200 Monas, Just Watch Me, like all of these authors that are sort of debuting in the same year with me. I've been catching up on their books and loving them. I love Marcy Dermansky's work, who did Bad Marie, Hot Air. Like all of her work is really inspiring to me. Gillian Flynn, all of her work is really inspiring to me. I think, yeah, there's so many, even just like some nonfiction writers like Eve Babbitt's and um, you know, there's an author called Cookie Mueller who I love, who was a writer that I don't know if you guys know John Waters, the filmmaker, but she was kind of in his camp. And really cool, amazing writer, unfortunately has passed. But so there's so many women that I think nail writing weird women in a specific way that's so inspiring to me. When I'm actually drafting, I find myself reading a little bit differently than I normally do. Like I'm drafting right now and I'm only reading nonfiction because I'm like, I just can't read fiction right now and like have that in my head while I'm trying to plot and trying to break things. So I just read, I'm reading Lena Dunham's Fame Sick right now and having
Oh,
a great
yeah,
time
yeah.
reading that. Yeah, it's really good.
I've seen only rave reviews. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so good. I just read Bellbird and Strangers too, so
We
I
both,
kind of,
yeah.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
you will. It was great. It was really
Very
good.
Yeah.
And also kind of like the East Coast setting, which I loved. So I tend to switch into nonfiction a little bit just when I'm drafting, or I just like stop reading entirely and I watch Real Housewives, which I think you can kind of feel in certain parts of this book. I feel like there's a lot of Housewives references to a point that I was like, oh yeah, you were rewatching old New York during this
We're
drafting
deep in.
process. Yeah, yeah. So I kind of jump around with what I'm consuming, but yeah, sometimes I'll avoid reading like classics that are just incredible because I'm like, I can't read Octavia Butler while I'm drafting, or else I'll never want to write again because she's so incredible.
Yeah, she is. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you've talked a little bit about the adaptation. What kind of role do you have in that? What's that process been like?
Yeah, so I'll be an executive producer and I'm writing the adaptation as a screenwriter. And it's been really fun. It's been, this book is so insular in Lillian's head, and there's a lot of like her drunk in her apartment crashing out, and that doesn't really work for a movie. You have to make it a little bit bigger and more cinematic. So that's been a fun challenge, and yeah, I think I'm on like the second draft right now, so we're still just like kind of getting the script in place, and I'm figuring out moments that I can make bigger, obviously like building out the world of Boston a little bit more, building out the side characters more. Like you have Nora, who's being, a bigger part of the adaptation. Even Henry's family is kind of becoming a bigger part of the adaptation, which is fun.
Mhm.
There's some stuff I touched on in the book that I didn't get into as deeply, but I think in the adaptation I'll have more room to expand. Like I kind of wanted to touch on the class divide between Henry and Lillian. Like he comes from a pretty wealthy Boston family. He went to a good school. Lillian is sort of this more like working class type of person that hasn't had the same opportunities afforded to her potentially. And that is sort of a bigger part of the book or the adaptation, imagining Henry's family and his place in the world and his place in Boston and like being this like finance guy that's doing well. So that's been fun to build out and work on. And it's honestly, I thought it would be so easy because I was a screenwriter first, but I'm like, oh, this is hard. This is tricky. You become precious about certain things and you have to make,
That,
compromises. Yeah. So that part is a balancing act for sure.
yeah, that's so interesting. So interesting. So cool that you get to be an executive producer too. That's rad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I'm excited.
that's really neat. Can't wait to watch it. Oh my gosh.
Thank
That
you.
was so
Thank
fun.
you.
Yeah, that's really fun. So now that you're working on your second novel, are there
Yeah.
any main changes that you have brought into like the process with writing or drafting or anything?
Yeah. I mean, oh, it's hard because part of me was like, I don't want to read reviews. I don't want to like get too caught up in the weeds of how people perceive my writing. I want to just keep writing and not get bogged down by like potential criticism or, I've tried to not have that be in the back of my head, but it's hard to, not have some of those things in the back of your head while you're writing. The second book is really, I mean, it's similar in that it's about loneliness, but it's really different. It's from two perspectives. Um, it's about a young woman who is, gets out of a 9-year relationship and starts turning to a chatbot for comfort and increasingly becomes more delusional because, she's talking to this chatbot every day. And I'm imagining a future in which influencers and like self-help podcasters can have their own chatbots that talk to their audience. So people can form these very parasocial relationships with people they follow online. So it's from the perspective of this young woman who's talking to a chatbot, and then it's from the perspective of a self-help podcaster who it's his chatbot that's kind of like out in the world. So it's these two people who are they don't know each other in person, but they're connected by this chatbot, and she's sort of accepting advice from this, narcissistic self-help podcaster and becoming increasingly more unwell because of it. And yeah, it's been really fun to write. I don't touch AI at all myself, so like I've had to research how these chatbots talk, and I've done a lot of reading on AI, and I read this book called Empire of AI by Karen Howe, which I highly recommend. It's really great, and just like understanding
I heard it
how
is so good.
it's
Yeah,
really
okay, I'll
good.
read it. I need to read it.
Yeah, it's also very approachable. Like I'm not technically, I don't really read nonfiction like that typically. That's not, I'll read like a lot of memoirs and stuff, but it's really approachable, and it helped me understand like how AI came to be so quick and how people, are interacting with it and the dangers around it. So, really recommend that novel. That was super helpful just on understanding the context. But it's been really fun to write. It's really also there's this Reddit thread called My Boyfriend is AI where people like are fully in relationships with AI chatbots. And I, peruse that Reddit a little bit to understand why people kind of connect with chatbots in that way. So it's been really that one definitely requires more research, and but it's been really fun to write. And but it's, writing two perspectives, and one of those perspectives is a man. I'm like, oh my God, I have to write a man. I'm Googling half the time, like, what do men eat? What do they do? Like, I just feel like I have to, step outside myself for that POV quite a bit.
Yeah, that would be quite a challenge to write
Yeah.
an LPOV, but
Yeah.
very, very cool. That sounds, I'm intrigued. That's
Thank
fun.
you.
That sounds really fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully it'll be out summer 2027. So hopefully it won't be like that long that people have to wait.
I'm excited.
Yeah. Thank you.
So for Lillian, I'm curious if there are any female main char or male, just main characters in general of other novels that you think would be friends with her.
Oh man. Oh God, that's such a good question. I
Or would
think,
hate her.
yeah, I feel like she'd be in conflict with a lot of people, but Bad Marie from Bad Marie, I think Lillian would I don't think they'd be friends. I think they'd probably be in competition with each other, but I think they could stir up some trouble together. I, yeah, I think Lillian, if she met Joe from You, they might have the most beautiful relationship ever. Like they might actually really fall in love and then totally self-destruct. I could see that being a hot and heavy relationship. And then like I would be so curious what would happen if Lillian met someone like Patrick Bateman. I feel like she'd be a little freaked out by him. He's a little too scary for her. But that's a great question. Oh man, I'm gonna like keep thinking about that. But those are the three that kind of come to mind.
Those are all great.
Patrick Bateman could definitely give her a run for her money.
Oh yeah. I think she'd be like, this guy's so hot. Wait, I'm scared. Like yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think it's serendipitous. We did an interview a couple days ago, and she brought up Marcy. It was with Anna Dorn. She brought up
Oh
Marcy,
yeah.
and you did too. And then we also talked about Patrick Bateman. I think that, I mean, not
Yeah.
that they are not like both popular, but
Totally.
it's always fun to hear like when the crossover.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, I love Marcy's work. She was my conversation partner in New York for my tour too, which is just so nice to get to like. I
Cool.
felt like I kept just like trying to gush about her book while we were supposed to be talking about mine, which is always fun.
Yeah, her books are really good. I love
Yeah.
Hurricane Girl. I think is my number one favorite.
Yeah, I
I
love
love all
Hurricane
of her
Girl.
books. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's just
Yeah. I feel like I have such a soft spot for Bad Marie in particular because it just feels like similarly chaotic to Lillian in a very fun way. But yeah, so I'm like looking at also Kate the lead character from Sky Daddy. It'd be really fun to see Linda, right? Linda and Lillian
Yeah.
together. I think they would have a good time for sure. I think Linda's sweeter than Lillian, but I think they'd
Yes,
have fun. Yeah.
that would
I
be
don't
it.
know why I can't remember the name because we literally just talked to Anna, but Exalted's main character.
Emily,
Oh,
my
yeah.
name. I think it's
Oh,
Emily. It's her name.
yeah,
Yeah.
Name, I think.
Yeah.
They,
they
I was
that
gonna
would
say they would be quite
Yeah, they would be a pair because she's like it's like it's a astrology too, right? Yeah.
yeah,
So Lillian would be drawn to her for sure. And I loved Perfume and Pain. I feel like Lillian could potentially fit into that cinematic universe in a
yeah.
problematic way too.
for sure. Oh, that's so fun. Well, that is all of the questions I have. What
Thank
about
you guys
you? Do
so
you have any
much.
more? Are you?
No, I that's everything.
Yeah, we
This
covered.
was
Yeah. Do you have
yeah,
anything you want to plug? Like any stuff you have coming up? Any?
I think just like the second book that I'm slowly chipping away on. I would be really excited if I don't know, the nicest thing to get is like people saying they can't wait to see what I write next. So I just hope that people stick around for the follow-up for as long as, not a follow-up, but for as long as that book takes. So really excited for that next book called Here for You. Yeah, and I think that's it. This has been such a lovely conversation. It's so fun to like chat about the book, and I really appreciate you guys like spotlighting debuts and these weird girl books. Like it's nice to kind of, step into this community after being in screenwriting for so long. So yeah, thank you.
Oh yeah.
we're happy to have you.
Yeah. So happy to have you. We loved your book, and we will absolutely wait however long until your
Thank
Yeah,
second
you.
novel releases. Yes. And we would
Thank
love to have you back on, and we can chat about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for here for you. I'm happy to come back.
Oh,
Thank you guys so
yeah.
much. This
Thank
was
you so
so
much.
fun.
thank
Have a good
you.
one.
All right, have a
Talk
good
to you
day.
soon.
Okay,
See
bye.
ya.
Bye.